Has Batman finally met his match in the Agents of Equilibrium, and what lessons from the past can he glean about his teacher Henri Ducard? Well, let's hop into the pages of Batman the Detective issue number 3 and find out together, shall we? So then, picking up from where the last issue left off, the mysterious lady leader of Equilibrium, who is still rather nameless this late in the game, had attempted to assassinate Henri Ducard for helping Batman. At first, it seemed like Ducard would be yet another parental figure that Batman had to watch die in an alley, but it seems the Dark Knight was actually able to get him to a hospital in just enough time. These events actually end up knocking loose a bunch of memories about Batman's early training and when he first met Ducard. Apparently, he had tracked him for so long that the man that Ducard was actually after assumed that Bruce was actually the one sent to kill him and completely didn't notice Ducard at all. This situation escalated incredibly quickly, and Batman actually inserted himself in between Ducard and this man's bullet. The day was saved. Ducard was impressed with the young Bruce Wayne, and he actually ended up earning a hefty profit for bringing this guy down and not really having to do any of the work on his own. Of course, that still doesn't mean the salty and world-weary even back then Ducard wanted to take Bruce on as an apprentice. That is, of course, until the young millionaire promised to pay him a dump truck full of money. Naturally, Ducard was not the easiest teacher to learn under and not the easiest man to be around. That being said, he still did manage to have a few nuggets of wisdom that I quite appreciate. For one, don't wake me before noon and don't wake me without coffee. If you want to be a manhunter, young Bruce, if you want to do it the way Ducard does it, move by night. It's easier not to be seen at that time, and it's when lowlives feel that they can freely be themselves. Lesson number 2, having friends helps. Friends all over the place, in high places, low places, and also money makes you a lot of friends, so don't be afraid to throw that around. Bruce and Ducard had a good partnership going there for a little while, but eventually Bruce decided he needed to break off on his own and picked a bad guy to take down solo. This guy was a mafia accountant, and while young Bruce did the chasing stuff very easily, he ended up getting captured by this dude and almost executed. It's good that Ducard was tailing him and managed to rush on in and make the save before eventually executing the accountant on his own. For you see, this was the other more uncomfortable part of Ducard's work that he had actually tried to keep from Bruce. Yes, he's the world's greatest manhunter, but when the price is good enough, he's also an executioner. Even back then, Batman refused to take a life, seeing it as a truly sacred thing, and this ended up breaking up their entire partnership after a short fist fight, which Bruce actually kinda lost. The two men would dissolve their partnership and end up going their separate ways, but this is comic books we're talking about here, and fate has a funny way of putting estranged people back together. For Batman and Ducard, it was during a bombing threat in London. Hats off to the art team in this retro Batman costume. I love the use of yellow on the chest piece. We literally haven't gotten that forever, and it's such a great way to place this scene in time. Batman managed to track down the terrorist bomber, but by the time he got there, Ducard had already killed the man, seemingly paid by the British government to also bring this guy to justice. Ducard swore up and down that this wasn't what it looked like, but Batman didn't believe him by this point, and the two ended up having themselves another fight. This time, though, Batman ultimately came out the other end victorious. Still, at the end of the day, though, the Dark Knight did care about his old friend and teacher, and because of that, he brought him to the same secret underground hospital that we saw in a previous issue before eventually carting him off to the police. Now, speaking of police, back in the present, Bruce had only just dropped the injured Ducard off at the hospital a few minutes ago before the police started banging on his door. It seems that Ducard had died, and now Bruce Wayne, of all people, is under arrest for his murder. But is Ducard really dead? Is this some sort of ploy, or is this another scheme by Equilibrium? As the comic comes to a close, we're not exactly sure. And so that was Batman the Detective issue number 3, everybody, and honestly, this issue felt a bit like a detour. I mean, I'm sure it will ultimately end up not being that because Tom Taylor is telling a big mystery story here, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff in this issue that's actually going to end up being more important later. But as it stands right now, this one has some awkward middle child energy to it. For what it's worth, it is certainly nice to see the early days of Batman's career explored in relationship to Ducard. I feel he always comes second to Bruce's relationship to Ra's al Ghul, the sensei, and other people who trained him. Taylor certainly seems to have some fun writing Ducard, and he ends up getting probably some of the best lines of the series so far, especially the one about, "Hey Bruce, you can't stop every bullet all the time, even if you really want to." And Bruce defiantly responding, "I can't stop every bullet yet, but one day I will." Overall, though, at the end of the day, the more I think about it, I'd end up giving this one only a 7.5 out of 10.
Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quests. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.